And 3, 2, 1, and we're live. So now you wear multiple different hats, and I'm hoping we can get into that now. You are the chief of Squiala, and you work with 2 other organizations. Can you tell us a little bit about your different roles?
Sure. So chief of Squiala, responsibilities around with respect to governance over the community, decision making and providing strategic direction on how we operate. There's decision making that comes from jurisdictional issues around lands. You look at the different agreements that we have with government that are the responsibility of chief and council. You look at our funding agreements. And then trying to decide what's in the best interest of the community. You have a fiduciary responsibility in order to look out for the best interest of the overall community. And that's something that I think people don't necessarily understand fully, and they think of from membership's perspective on individual gain versus collectively what that looks like. And that's a challenge at times because in making decisions like that, they may take offense to it because they think it's a personal decision, where it's actually, no, we're going in a direction that's going to benefit the greater community as opposed to one individual. And so there's a lot of responsibility, I think, that comes in the position in leadership and chiefs and councils. We have a school, we operate our elementary school, and the ultimate decision authority is chief and council. So where you have school boards and school board trustees and local municipality and the local school district, we have to carry that responsibility. People often don't understand that we have various levels. So, municipalities' responsibilities with respect to roadworks and all of the different aspects that come with it. And then you look at provincial responsibilities around education, and children and family services, and those types of things. And then you have federal responsibilities around lands, and, the list goes on and on. Each of those governments are responsible for selectively those things. In the First Nations community, we're responsible for all of them. And as we've expanded our authority through legislation like land code and tax laws and the ability to create our own bylaws, you take on more responsibility, and it can become quite challenging. So you have to have a fairly good understanding of all the dynamics that come with the responsibility, and each community is different. Some are very small and don't necessarily have capacity to do all of those things. Others are large and have grown, to have all of these different departments and work. So ultimately, that responsibility falls on chief and council with respect to decision making. And then I also carry the chief executive role for chief executive officers for the band. So a little bit different because I'm, with respect to Eagle Landing, actively participating as one of the partners there. Understanding all of the leases that we have when they come up for renewals, when we look at new leases, and we have these proposals looking at their tenant improvement, what the offers are, and understanding how the dynamics work with respect to restrictive covenants against other leases, those types of things for the overall development is another totally different element of how we operate. COVID was an example of how we had to maneuver, knowing that some of our businesses couldn't open their doors for a period of time. So suffering, they have no revenue. They owe lease payments to us as landlords. We have responsibilities as landlords to the lenders that we've borrowed to build the shopping center in the first place. So you have this trickle-down effect that was taking place, and so a responsibility in that role is, talking with the lenders, negotiating deferrals for a period of time so that we could offer those same deferrals to our tenants, and who then can, it's like landlord, tenants, lenders, employees. The impact was pretty significant. And then exploring new opportunities for the community as well. Overseeing the overall organization, so our lands department, finance department, housing department, social assistance department, our school. So oversight over all of that becomes a bit of it's a heavy responsibility as well. And then expansion of development. Where are we going? What are we going to do? What's the strategic direction that's going to generate the most revenue and return for community versus simple transactions? And that's a tough one. But that's the Squiala role. And then president of the Ts'elxweyeqw Tribe. So the Chilliwack Tribe is made up of 7 communities. We have essentially what we do with the tribe. I like to think of it as our rights and title body. So, we respect the autonomy of each individual community. Squiala, Atchlitz, Skokail, Yakwikwius, Chiacton, and Ts'eqway. We each of those within the confines of their reserve boundaries have those responsibilities as chiefs and councils. So that's not the tribe's responsibility to meddle in any of that work. We look at how to steward our lands, our traditional territory. So if we look at the Chilliwack River Valley, we look at Chilliwack Lake, we look at Cultus Lake, parts of the municipality that are within the traditional territory of the tribe. That's what we look at on how to steward and advocate on behalf of the communities. So large proponents come through the territory, like a Trans Mountain expansion project. That triggers an effect for us to do some consultation on behalf of the communities, negotiate with provincial and federal governments on other agreements. We have our forestry company that's operated through there. We have our forest stewardship plan, which we've developed in 2017 on behalf to, actively manage our forest practices, being mindful of our responsibility around stewardship in the territory. We've looked at run-of-the-river hydroelectric projects that we have essentially ready to go, but came to a halt due to government restrictions on expanding the ability to negotiate those deals anymore. What else do we do? We do some property management within the organization. We look at referrals on behalf of communities as well. So if you have some work being done nearby your community, and it's going to have an impact on the community, we have a system to review the referrals and how that impact is going to look, and then rate them on a scale and provide feedback to the community to say, yes, you need to engage in this, or we can do it on your behalf. So those are just a few examples of what we do with the tribe. It's a very well-functioning body. I think the communities all have come together and understand the differences in where we can provide that support on behalf of the communities. Which has been we have a wonderful staff. Each of the organizations that I work with have great staff. So that's a little bit about the tribe at Sto Nation Chiefs Council. So as president of the Sto Nation Chiefs Council, it's primarily a political advocacy role. We're monitoring what the provincial government is doing, how that's going to impact any of our communities with respect to some of the work going on, children and family services, education. If communities want a letter of support, we can write it on behalf of the community to the government or to whoever. Sometimes, these consultation discussions really need support from another organization, and we try to do that for them. And we come together to share resources. So just listening sometimes in a room to understand what other communities are doing is beneficial to somebody who isn't there yet. So we get to share those stories and resources and discuss issues that are having impacts to our communities. And then my other role is I still have, we call it DJimmie Construction now, but I'm still a licensed residential builder and general contractor and partner with Van Maren again. So building a project here in Chilliwack and another one starting next year in Westbank.
Wow, that is so many different hats, and all have had tremendous impact on the community. Let's go back a little bit to Eagle Landing, because I don't know if people even realize sometimes that when they're going to Walmart, they're interacting with the First Nations community, and they have a huge role to play in the fact that we're able to go there and get our groceries and get our gas and see a movie. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's such a unique thing. Obviously, that happens with Chiacton First Nation as well, yep, in a different way because they have different businesses. But that movement has been a great success in my view to bring two communities together and bridge those divides. I know that lots of people go to the Walmart and they're grateful and they recognize that that's a First Nations community. But what has that been like to have that as like a pillar in the community that brings people together?
I think obviously it's a great success story. Again, I would like to pay credit to our previous staff and our previous leadership for the discussions that led to it, with Eagle Landing Parkway negotiations for the easement agreement. I think it can be misleading to membership, though. And that was a bit of a challenge in the communication. So on face, in some cases, some will say, we own, some people thought we owned Walmart. Some people thought we owned Cineplex, that we owned everything that was on our land. And so you go through this educational process to say, we're the majority shareholder in our partnership and we are landlords. So we lease the space to them. So then, thinking that we're generating all of this revenue, owning every store would be fantastic, but it's not the reality. And, as a partner in the project, people, I think, have a misconception that you're making way more than you are. And we're very open and transparent with our membership. We do our audit presentation every year. Everybody can come and ask questions. The books are available online. You can see. But I think the success story is just, again, we've seen the growth in Chilliwack. We've seen the growth across the province and the country within sort of smaller communities that expand and don't necessarily have a choice at some point, because all the lands have been developed or taken, or private land holdings are there, and there are no more large plots of land available to do this type of development. And then the First Nations communities, suddenly are, oh, let's go talk to them and let's see if there's an opportunity. And so I think being able to leverage that and be an example for other communities to follow has been great. We're not done, clearly. We have additional lands there, but it's just trying to determine what's going to be the best and highest use for us.
Wow, that I'm excited to see what happens there, because for me, just as a community member driving through it, I'm so grateful, and it's so unique because we were emailing back and forth and trying to set this up, it's so wild to drive through a community and know that somebody's put their stamp on it. And that's a lot of Chilliwack, in my view, for you, because there was Molson Coors where you were a part of that. You were a part of the Vetter Bridge. You're a part of Eagle Landing. It's hard to drive down a road in Chilliwack and not have a point in time where you've interacted with it and brought some of the indigenous culture. And so that's something I just wanted to let you know about, that's your impact in our community, and there's no getting around it.